My entitled family wants to take my inherited house and kick me out. Some background. I grew up in a large, close-knit family. My grandparents had 5 children. My mother and her 4 siblings. Each of them had 2 or 3 kids, so family gatherings were always huge, loud affairs. My grandfather was the patriarch of the family, a self-made man who built a successful construction company from the ground up. Growing up, I was always closer to my grandparent than most of my cousins were. While the others were off playing or causing mischief, I'd often sit with Grandpa in his study, listening to his stories about his youth and the early days of his business. He taught me the value of hard work, integrity, and standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. When I was 18, I decided to follow in my grandfather's footsteps and study construction management in college. He was thrilled and became my mentor, teaching me everything he knew about the industry. After I graduated, I even worked for his company for a few years before branching out on my own. Now here's where the trouble starts. My grandfather passed away 3 months ago at the age of 85. It was a huge loss for the entire family, but especially for me. He wasn't just my grandfather. He was my role model, my mentor, and in many ways, my best friend. The reading of the will was last week, and that's when all hell broke loose. My grandfather left his sizable estate to be divided equally among his children, with one major exception. Family home. Beautiful, 5-bedroom Victorian house that's been in the family for 3 generations was left solely to me. The house isn't just any property. It's a historic landmark in our town, beautifully maintained and worth well over $1 million in today's market. But more than its monetary value, it's filled with family history and memories. It's where we had every Thanksgiving and Christmas gathering, where all the grandkids learned to swim in the backyard pool, where my parents got married on the sprawling lawn. When the lawyer read out this part of the will, you could have heard a pin drop. Then, chaos erupted. My aunts and uncles were shouting, my cousins were crying, and my own parents looked shocked. The will stated clearly that my grandfather's wish was for me to have the house because I understood and appreciated its true value beyond its monetary worth. In the days since the will reading, my phone hasn't stopped ringing, and my email inbox is overflowing. Family members I haven't heard from in years are suddenly very interested in talking to me. The general consensus among them seems to be that I should do the right thing and sell the house, then split the proceeds among the entire family. My mother, bless her heart, has been calling me daily with tearful pleas to keep the family together by giving up the house. She says that by keeping it, I'm destroying decades of family unity and turning myself into an outcast. My father, usually a calm and reasonable man, has taken to leaving angry voicemails about how I'm stealing from the family and spitting on your grandfather's legacy. My aunts and uncles are even worse. One aunt, who I've always been close to, cornered me at a family dinner, which I now regret attending, and spent an hour trying to guilt me into selling the house. She brought up every favor she'd ever done for me, from babysitting when I was a kid to helping me move into my college dorm. Another uncle, who's a lawyer, has been not so subtly hinting that they might contest the will if I don't see reason. My cousins are a mixed bag. A few have congratulated me privately, saying they understand why Grandpa left me the house, but most are furious, accusing me of manipulating our grandfather in his old age or somehow tricking him into changing his will. One cousin even started a family group chat, which I was conveniently left out of, discuss strategies for getting me to give up the house. The thing is, I have no intention of selling the house or giving it up. It's not about the money this house represents my connection to my grandfather and the values he instilled in me. I have so many plans for it. I want to preserve it, maybe turn part of it into a small museum about the town's history, something Grandpa and I had often discussed. I'm even considering moving in and raising my own family there someday. But the pressure from my family is intense and unrelenting. They're using every tactic they can think of: guilt, anger, manipulation, even threats. Some of the things they've said and done in the past week. My mother implied that if I don't sell the house, I won't be welcome at future family gatherings. When I pointed out that those gatherings have always been at the house that's now mine, she burst into tears and hung up on me. One of my uncles started a rumor that I had been stealing from Grandpa's company when I worked there, suggesting that's how I bought my way into the will. It's completely untrue, but some family members seem all too ready to believe it. A cousin I've always been close to texted me saying she's pregnant and was hoping to have her baby shower at the family home, like every other family wedding and baby shower for the past 50 years. When I congratulated her, but didn't immediately offer up the house, she accused me of being selfish, uncaring about family traditions. My youngest aunt showed up at my apartment unannounced, 2 of her kids in tow. She spent an hour reminiscing about her childhood in the house, how much it would mean to her to be able to give her own children the same experiences. When I didn't immediately offer to sell, she left in a huff, telling her kids loudly in the hallway that Uncle OP doesn't care about family. Family has started posting passive-aggressive comments on social media, vague booking about greed tearing families apart and the importance of honoring our elders' true wishes. Careful not to mention me by name, but it's clear to anyone who knows the situation what they're referring to. I've received several calls from family friends and distant relatives, all expressing their concern about the situation, offering to mediate. Clear they've only heard one side of the story, and most conversations quickly turn into them trying to convince me to give up the house. My brother, who initially seemed to be on my side, has now started suggesting a compromise where I sell him the house at a drastically reduced price, and then he'll figure out how to share it with the rest of the family. When I refused, he accused me of loving the house more than I love him. At a recent family gathering, which again, I now regret attending, one of my cousins jokingly suggested that if I didn't sell the house, the family might just have to resort to more creative methods of changing my mind. The look in his eyes made it clear it wasn't entirely a joke. The stress of the situation is starting to affect other areas of my life. I'm having trouble sleeping, my work performance is suffering, and I've started avoiding social situations for fear of running into family members or friends who've heard their side of the story. Part of me wonders if I'm being unreasonable. The house is large, and I'm just one person. Maybe I am being selfish, keeping it all to myself. But then I remember the conversations I had with my grandfather, plans we made for the house, the look in his eyes when he talked about passing it on to me. I feel like giving it up would be betraying him and everything he taught me. I've tried explaining my feelings to my family, but they either don't listen, twist my words. They seem to think this is all about money, no matter how many times I tell them it's not. I've even offered to host family gatherings at the house, to keep the traditions alive, but they say it's not the same, they don't own it. So Reddit, I turn to you. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up the house my grandfather explicitly left to me in his will? Am I really destroying my family, or are they the ones causing the damage with their entitlement and manipulation? Should I stand my ground, or find some way to appease them? Any advice on how to handle this situation would be greatly appreciated. Edit 1. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for your responses and support. I'll try to address some common questions and provide an update. Many of you have suggested getting a lawyer. Absolutely right. I've already reached out to one. We're documenting all the harassment and threats, just in case. To those asking why my grandfather left me the house, he never explicitly told me he was going to do this. But we had many conversations about the future of the house, and he knew how much I loved it and wanted to preserve it. I suspect he felt the rest of the family might be too quick to sell it for a quick profit. Several people have asked about the financial situation of my family members. As far as I know, everyone is doing okay. No one is in dire straits or desperately needs money. This seems to be more about perceived fairness and entitlement than actual need. Those suggesting I sell the house and split the money anyway, I understand where you're coming from. This isn't about money for me. This house is my connection to my grandfather and our shared dreams for its future. Selling it would feel like selling those memories and dreams. Many have advised cutting contact with my family. It's not an easy decision, but I'm starting to realize it might be necessary, at least temporarily. I'm looking into therapy to help me navigate that. Edit 2. Things have escalated. Last night, I drove by the house, I haven't officially moved in yet, and found several of my cousins and their friends camping in the front yard. They claimed they were protecting our family heritage. I called the police, who made them leave. I feel terrible, but I didn't know what else to do. This morning, I woke up to find that someone had started a Facebook page titled Save the Family Name House. It's filled with childhood photos of my cousins at the house and lengthy posts about family unity and honoring our elders. They're painting me as the villain who's destroying generations of family history. It's hurtful and frustrating, especially because they're only telling one side of the story. I've decided to move into the house sooner than planned. I'm worried about what might happen if it's left unoccupied. I'm also installing a security system and cameras. On a more positive note, a few family members have reached out privately to offer support. They say they understand my position and think the others are being unreasonable. It's a small comfort, but it helps to know not everyone is against me. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Thank you all again for your advice and support. Final edit. It's been a rollercoaster few weeks since my last update. Here's where things stand. I've officially moved into the house. The first night was emotional. Kept expecting to see Grandpa coming around the corner or hear his laugh echoing down the hallway. But it also felt right, like I was exactly where I was meant to be. The security system has been invaluable. There have been a few incidents of family members dropping by, unannounced, or trying to guilt the neighbors into letting them in. The cameras have helped keep everything documented. I've had to get a cease and desist letter sent to the creators of the Facebook page. They initially refused to take it down. After my lawyer got involved, he reluctantly complied. I've started the process of having the house registered as a historical landmark, something Grandpa and I had talked about, and it feels like the right way to honor his memory. Plus, it'll make it harder for anyone to force a sale in the future. I've decided to go through with the plan to turn part of the house into a small museum about the town's history. I'm working with the local historical society, and they're thrilled about the idea. It feels like a way to share the house with the community while still respecting Grandpa's wishes. Most of my immediate family is still not speaking to me, but a few have started to come around. My brother called to apologize for his behavior, admitting that he got caught up in the drama. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship. I've started therapy to help deal with the stress and emotional toll of the situation. It's helping me set boundaries and work through my feelings of guilt and anger. Perhaps most surprisingly, one of my cousins, who was initially one of the most vocal opponents, has reached out. After cooling down, she said she realized she was acting out of jealousy and hurt, not any real sense of injustice. We had a long emotional talk, and while things aren't completely repaired, the start. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this ordeal. It's been one of the most challenging periods of my life, but I feel like I'm honoring my grandfather's memory and staying true to myself. The house feels more like home every day, and I'm excited about its future as both a family home and a piece of community history. It's not the happy ending I might have wished for with my whole family, but I'm at peace with my decisions and hopeful what the future holds.